Surely you have seen for yourself the pain and suffering that fills this world. But fight poison with poison. God is merciful, and so created the Old One. The Old One will feed upon our souls and put an end to our tragic realm of existence. You fool! Don't you understand? No one wishes to go on.
King Allant XII was once a magnanimous and beloved ruler who cared deeply for his subjects and fought valiantly to destroy the demons remaining from the first scourge. With time, however, Allant became melancholy, and in his pursuit of power for himself and the kingdom he ruled over, he eventually made his way to the Nexus and learned about the ancient and forgotten soul arts. With the knowledge of the soul arts, King Allant left the Nexus and ushered in an age of unprecedented prosperity for Boletaria. However, with time, the suffering of the world around him began to weigh on him, and he chose to take matters into his own hands.
I have had enough of this rotten world.
He returned to the Nexus and awoke the Old One, an ancient poison upon the soul created by God to cleanse the earth. And thus, King Allant began the Second Scourge. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where our story, the story of the Slayer of Demons, begins. With the world covered by a colorless deep fog and demons feeding on the souls of humanity for the second time. The first time this happened, the destruction was indescribable. Here's how the last Monumental describes it.
In the distant past, under a benevolent rule, the world was united owing to the soul arts. Until a lust for power caused the awakening of the Old One. Across the land seeped a colorless, deep fog, and the world faced extinction at the hands of the demons. Thanks be, we were able to lull the Old One back to his slumber, yet only after the loss of innumerable souls, and half the world lost, erased by the fog. In order to mend the fabric of what land still remained, we entrusted 6 elders with 6 precious archstones. 1 to the king of a small yet diligent land. 1 to the king of the burrowers underground. 1 to the wise queen of the great ivory tower. 1 to the chieftain of lost and ill-fortuned souls. 1 to the shaman of the tempest-worshipping shadowmen. And the last to the great giants of the northern lands. The archstones were placed at nodes across the earth. We contained the Old One inside this Nexus and banned the soul arts. Finally, we became monumentals, half-living sentinels of the fabric of reality. Alas, the other monumentals have perished, and only I remain.
Those 6 archstones connect the world and allow the Slayer of Demons passage across the land. Great demons reside in each world, and only after destroying every demon will the Slayer of Demons be granted an audience with the Old One. It will howl, beckoning for a new servant, which is when the Maiden in Black, a great demon which resides in the Nexus and binds the power of hostless souls to the Slayer of Demons, is meant to lull the Old One back to slumber. But the demons are not easy prey. Before facing them, the Slayer of Demons must make their way across the ruined lands and face death over and over again. After they traversed the fog and came to Boletaria, they died and were bound to the Nexus. This ensured that their souls would not become transient and that their mind would not break. They will live on in soul form after their bodies die to traverse the distorted worlds and uncover the dark secrets they hold.
At its peak, Boletaria was a grand kingdom. The king, his knights, and his subjects were modest and plain, but also steadfast and compassionate. In the distant southern kingdom, Boletaria was known as paradise on earth. But look at what has become of us now. I refuse to believe that this is what Father wished for our great land.
The second scourge has been rough on Boletaria. The once noble knights have become demons, and the only citizen we meet who's maintained his sanity is the Dragling merchant, a morally shaky sort who sells what he loots of the dead. King Allant's son, Ariona Allant, traveled to Boletaria under the alias Ostrava to uncover whether there were truths to the rumors that his father had become a demon. He is speculated to have been staying in Latria with his uncle Lord Ridiel, also known as Little Allant, before arriving. He wears the fluted armor set and wields the rune weapon set. These can all be found in Latria, and the fluted set mentions that it was crafted in the south. Additionally, Ostrava gifts the Slayer of Demons a telescope which also comes from the south. It's from Ostrava that we can uncover most of what we know about the history of Boletaria.
King Allant led Boletaria with a round table of brave knights. The royal twin Fangs, Vallarfax and Biorr, Alfred, the Knight of the Tower, Metas, the Knight of the Lance, and the brave tribesman Longbow Ulan and his fearsome legions. But today, Boletaria is an abysmal mess. Vallarfax was lost, and Biorr slipped through the fissure, never to be heard from again. All the rest, along with Boletaria, have been devoured by the fog, and will soon be prey to the demons. The Boletarian Knights are no longer. But perhaps our age will see the rise of new heroes, such as yourself.
After the arrival of the demons, Vallarfax became lost as he escaped the fog and warned the world of the terrors facing Boletaria. His fate is unknown, but there are some theories worth looking into. Vallarfax and Biorr make up the elite duo, the twin Fangs, and if we assume that they wear the same armor set, then he might have been murdered by executioner Meralda, as the brushwood set is found near her. Alternatively, Biorr is also known to wear the Ring of Great Strength, and we can find a copy of this ring on a corpse near the blue and red dragons. Biorr himself was captured after falling through the fissure and thrown in a dungeon, wardened by a fat minister. Like Ostrava, he holds on to the hope that King Allant could not be the cause of the demon scourge, and like Ostrava, he comes to accept the truth in the end. Unlike Ostrava, however, he does not commit suicide at the knowledge. After aiding the Slayer of Demons in killing the Blue Dragon, thus possibly avenging Vallarfax, Biorr and the Slayer of Demons will talk for the last time, and keen-eared listeners will note that his dialogue sounds pained near the end. That and his retreat back to his cell suggests that he's given up the fight. On the steps to the False King, the Slayer of Demons meets Ostrava for the final time. Overcome with despair at the knowledge that his father has become a demon, Ostrava will commit suicide after gifting to the Slayer the Mausoleum Key. Ostrava made it much farther than anyone would reasonably expect him to, largely because of the assistance the Slayer of Demons granted him, and the Mausoleum Key might be Ostrava's way of paying the Slayer back. This agalmatolite key opens up the royal family mausoleum where the legendary twin swords are kept, under the safeguard of Old King Doran. Old King Doran is a demigod who founded Boletaria and now serves as a protector of the royal family and the aforementioned twin swords, the Demon Brand and the Soul Brand. The former banishing that which befouls man, and the latter banishing man himself. Only the demon brand is kept in the mausoleum, as King Allant wielded the soul brand when he had his audience with the old one. Old King Doran will gift the Slayer the demon brand after they prove their mettle in combat against him, and the soul brand they may find with the true King Allant near the game's end. Should they make their way to Stonefang, they can force from these two swords the unity weapon Northern Regalia. An ancient weapon said to have been left in the world around the same time as the old one itself was, and for vague, malicious purposes. Much of the Demon Souls experience is very vague and malicious, like the Fat Ministers. Exactly what they are and how much agency they have over their actions and what roles they play is up for debate, but they are definitely the bad guys. It seems that they have a natural affinity for torture and debaucherous conduct, as is seen with the way they often are shown to lead the mad, soulless humans in the world, and in how they seem to take joy in harming those they imprison. Yuria is alluded to having been raped, Biorr is kept out of the fight, Rydial is imprisoned in soul form, etc. The humans which the Fat Ministers oversee lack clear mind. The game's menu cinematic establishes that the soul is what gives human beings the power of clarity, and as the demon scourge is eating the souls of men, all that remains are mad husks, who grow soul-starved and violent. They are naturally attracted to those with souls, and can otherwise not function in any capacity other than what the Fat Ministers dictate to them. Stonefang Tunnel is an excavation site formerly, and likely currently, under the control of King Allant. Its upper levels are inhabited mostly by miners and Fat Ministers, but we can also encounter the Filthy Man, Patches the Hyena, and Blacksmith Ed here. The Filthy Man takes advantage of the miners' lack of clear mind by stealing their excavations and selling them. He is somewhat familiar with the interior of Stonefang, as he knows about the lair of the crystal lizards, but it's clear he doesn't want to dive too deep, likely because of the rumored inhabitants of the deep. Patches, the hyena, is a From Software staple, and just like in the other games, he's a malicious individual who lures unsuspecting victims to their death so that he can loot their corpses later. In Demon's Souls, we see many insane humans who exist solely to feed off the souls of the living, and we also see seemingly sane individuals who function much the same. Otherwise normal humans who give in to their lower nature and turn against their fellow man when really they ought to unite against the common enemy they face in the demons. The miners in Stonefang have all lost their sanity long ago and exist solely to be supervised by the Fat Ministers in mining ore, which is used to forge weapons for the Boletarian army. The miners are beginning to scale over from their intense exposure to the elements, but this is not necessarily representative of losing their souls or becoming demons. In Stonefang, we can find the most accomplished blacksmith in the game, Blacksmith Ed, who along with his twin brother Baldwin also showcases this scalification. In the Nexus, the Slayer of Demons is aided in their blacksmithing needs by Baldwin, and they can learn from him that as a young man, he would clear out beer bugs from the mine tunnels with his bare hands. These beer bugs and other tough creatures still live deep in the mines where the expansion of the industrial mining apparatus has stopped. I imagine that in the past, Stonefang was not as extensively mechanized as it is right now, so having a strong guy like Baldwin to clear out the beer bugs would have been a good thing. Even so, Baldwin admits that his strength is no match for Ed's. Ed will craft for the Slayer of Demons weapons from Demon's Souls, and has much to say about the nature of blacksmithing. It might be a good thing that the Slayer of Demons meets him when they do, as Ed is so consumed by his work that he might soon become indistinguishable from the mindless humans who slave away mining ore here. Both Ed and Baldwin carry a Hand of God which were once worn by the legendary Big M. a figure of some note as he killed dragons with his bare hands. I've come to believe that the Flamelurker demon and the legendary Big M are one and the same, and I also believe that he is the ancestor of Ed and Baldwin. Outside of the Flamelurker boss room, we can find 2 Hands of God, and the Flamelurker boss room is filled with the corpses of dragons. Additionally, the Flamelurker's face seems designed to evoke the glasses worn by Ed and Baldwin, and like the legendary Big M, the Flamelurker fights exclusively with his hands. This boss makes very little narrative sense if he's not the legendary Big M, and it otherwise doesn't quite add up why Ed requires his soul specifically to forge for the Slayer of Demons weapons from demons' souls. Whether or not the legendary Big M was transformed into the Flamelurker, or whether the Flamelurker is a manifestation of the legend of the legendary Big M is unknown, but what we do know is that the Flamelurker protects the entryway to a holy site. Skurver the Wanderer is the area's great lore master, and it's from his dialogue and its inferences that we can puzzle together the Stonefang mystery. Long ago, this mountain was inhabited by burrowers who believed that the dragon skeleton deep inside was a god who transformed dragon bones into ore. They also feared that this skeleton might one day return to life, so they built a temple to it to seal it in as well as to appease it. But they also constructed 2 countermeasures should the thing ever return and be hostile. The first countermeasure are the 2 harpoon ballistas aimed directly at it, and the other countermeasure is an item which Skurver very much wants to see: the legendary Dragon Bone Smasher. Latria is the first of 2 areas meant to communicate the idea of evil, and this area is a mirror to human evil. But it didn't used to be. Once, this dungeon was an ivory tower, and this land was ruled over by a wise and adored queen and her husband. That husband had a depraved nature though, so the queen eventually saw fit to eject him from her kingdom, but he returned one day, clad in yellow garb with an army of demons in tow. After murdering the queen and solidifying his control over the region, he set about to systematically transform this land into a shrine to evil. He imprisoned the civilians and royals alike in dungeons filled with torture devices and wardened by an army of mind flayers. We know the prisoners are former royals because we can meet the once royal mistress, and because the generic prisoner drops are items which allude to having been exclusively owned by the affluent. They also drop shards of mercury stone, implying that mercury may have been used to fry their brains. And it might be that the mercury was given to them. Silver is said to have healing and protective qualities in this game, and it might be that the prisoners were given mercury and told it was silver. So as they clutched on to the hope for protection, their minds were being rotted. The mind flayers are the octopus-headed monsters which have a knack for incapacitating those who would wander through these halls. Not all prisoners here are in fact soul-starved or insane. There's the aforementioned once royal mistress, and there is also Sage Frake, who will teach the Slayer of Demons magic, Yurt, the Silent Chief, who will teach the Slayer of Demons the folly of trust, and finally, Lord Ridiel is imprisoned in soul form. Ridiel's imprisonment seems especially cruel in that he is not allowed to leave even in death, and some speculate that this is because he was the new husband of the Queen of Latria, and that the old monk harbors a peculiar grudge against him. Sage Frake was imprisoned after being overpowered by the old monk, and Yurt was in Latria, likely on official business. Latria contains numerous items which hint to a secretive soul society who seek to eradicate the knowledge of the soul arts, and Yurt is working for Mephistopheles to do just that. Who captured him is unknown, but he is aware of the Slayer of Demons, as he notes in Death that Mephistopheles was right about them, and is seen by him having the foreknowledge to lie that he is also killing demons, and thus he should be freed from his cell. It's clear that the old monk is indeed powerful, that he was able to capture all of these individuals, and his power is probably in manipulating souls. It's possible that the vaguely described depravity of the old monk was that he was in fact a member of the secret soul society. The prevailing theory is that they traffic in the harvesting of souls, which might explain why the old monk has such immense knowledge of them. The Queen of Latria was murdered in secrecy, and to quell all hope for insurrection, the king created a doll in the queen's image. She's located in a church whose access is closed off by an enormous ballista in the queen's likeness, which slaughters those that would attempt to enter. But rumors spun by the old monk himself insist that the queen can offer salvation to the truly faithful and help them ascend. This is a particular type of cruelty, to offer hope where none exists, and to top it off, the ascension by angels is in fact just a descent to a deeper level of despair. The first archstone is cradled by a dead prisoner clinging to hope, but the second one has nobody, because those who make their way to the upper level are transformed into horrible monsters by the old monk. Before fighting the man-eaters, the Slayer of Demons must collapse what appears to be an enormous heart, which the old monk used to fabricate his monsters. It's theorized that the souls of those in the prison are farmed to feed this enormous organ, and the area it hovers over might have been the meeting ground for the Soul Society before Latria's collapse. The man-eaters are twin demons who guard the bridge to the old monk, and seem to have been created from a single human being, as there's a corpse nearby which can be looted for 2 souls. These demons can cast the same Wrath of God-esque explosion magic, although Wrath of God is a miracle, foreshadowing, that the Mind Flayers could cast, and they have snakes for tails, which will often bite their host and cause them great anguish. Another showcase of the old monk's cruelty in that he would make suffer even those who serve him completely. After venturing through the terrible land, the Slayer of Demons will not come face to face with the old monk, as the old monk himself has been drained and transformed into nothing more than an insane vessel to the yellow garb. This garb will search out for humans to take over and have them fight the Slayer instead. The Insanity Catalyst is created from this demon's soul, and it reads, "A catalyst wrapped in golden cloth, forged from the soul of the demon old monk. It causes insanity in the wielder and drastically increases the strength of spells, but halves the wielder's maximum MP. If you have no dreams for the future, you may want to place your trust in the power of the golden garb." MP scales with the intelligence stat, so in splitting the MP in half, the Insanity Catalyst ludonarratively causes the wielder madness. There's a level of despair to Lotria unmatched in any subsequent FromSoft game, in the all-too-human suffering for all-too-human reasons. Heavy is the head which wears the crown, and the yellow garb's incredible powers can be yours for the small price of induced madness. The Shrine of Storms rests on the island of the elusive Shadowman, shaman who worshipped the storm and mourned those that die. It's a very ethereal plane, and not quite compatible with any traditional fantasy setting. In the shrine, legends have been brought to life by the Old One, which might be why it's attracted those human beings we can find here. The man Satsuki, whose clothing indicates he came from the Valley of Defilement, searches for the magic sword Makoto, a cursed weapon named after a giant which allegedly belonged to Satsuki's father. It's an interesting weapon in that it slowly kills the wielder and inflicts wounds that are said to never heal. In the end of his questline, Satsuki will attempt to murder the Slayer of Demons. With the Makoto if the Slayer hands it over to him, with the hiltless katana if the Slayer kept the Makoto for themselves. The hiltless is also wielded by the Black Phantom, who resides with Saint Urbane in the trap. Patches overseas. Patches is up to his old tricks again, and this time has captured the Saint Urbane, a miracle man who is said to hear the voice of God. Another human being which can be found here in a trap laid out by Patches is Grey Robber Blige. He's a scavenger like Patches, and after the Slayer of Demons saves him from a cell, he will serve as a very useful vendor. Like the Dragling merchant and Patches himself, the items he sells were all scavenged, and he himself serves to fill in much of the lore about this place. It's thanks to him that we know that the Shadowmen who once inhabited this island are long gone. Him and, just looking around, not seeing anybody. The Shadowmen are about as elusive as the ancient Stonefang burrowers, so not much is known about them, but we can surmise from the information the game gives that they were probably tall, pagan barbarians who believed in cutting their lips off. They believed that dark rituals could appease the storm beasts and bring rain. Those who died were said to be met by the adjudicator, who judged whether their souls were worthy of proceeding to the next phase of the ritual, or whether they would simply be devoured by the adjudicator itself. Those deemed worthy would be lain out on a shrine overlooked by the body of the old hero during a storm to be mourned by the tribe. Finally, the remains of these heroes of storms would be offered up for consumption to the Storm King, who hovers over a valley littered with stone monoliths. These pagan myths have been brought to life by the Old One, and now the Slayer of Demons makes their way through the ceremony to eradicate the skeletons who have been given life by wandering souls and the demons which reside here. The first one being the Adjudicator, who also has his lips torn off and is seemingly impaled with the tip of one of his large cleavers. The bird judges, and the swollen demon Adjudicator devours. On the path to the old hero, the Slayer of Demons can find a very strange room, filled with narrow walkways, some sort of soul water and snails. These snails are attracted to the magical powers which the transient souls have gifted the water, and their slime trails are the sticky white stuff which we can find all over the game, which gives our weapons magic buffs. The old hero is a blind demon who in legend was a towering figure. Like all other figures of the Shadowmen, his lips are torn off and his power seems to have been luck. We don't know what his tail was, I have theories, but his soul creates the large sword of searching, a worn and thoroughly used blade which doubles drop rates. Drop rate is connected to the luck stat like MP is to intelligence, so again, we have lore and ludonarrative. Miracles in this game are countersigns to the power of demons, and the old hero's soul can be transformed into the second chance miracle. It revives the caster from death and is a countersign to the pagans who worshipped death and the dead. The old hero is also referred to as the Searcher of Storms, so I figure, because his soul is connected to fortune and discovery, that in legend he found this area. He discovered the storm beasts, he found the storm he was searching for. The final demon of the area is the Storm King, which is the largest of the sadistic, manta ray-like storm beasts. These feast on the souls of the deceased, so it has been theorized that the Reapers are killing them to create these shadow lurkers. This would explain why so many of them lay dead near the shrine. The storm beasts bring from the sky cloudstone, which is a rare ore, although probably this is a myth, and the cloudstone is just part of their anatomy. It's a rare ore because storm beasts are not easy prey. Thankfully, however, there exists a weapon powerful enough to rend the sky and bring these titans of the Tempest down. The legendary Storm Ruler. The Valley of Defilement is the other level meant to be a place of evil. Unlike Latria, however, this evil is made of nature, not man. The valley was the dumping ground for the rest of the world. This is where all things unwanted, the diseased, the old, or the young in the case of the aborted children, came to reside. This land was filthy and unholy and thus attracted the attention of the holy warriors of the West, wielding the revelations from God. Like the secret soul society, these holy warriors exist mostly in lore and item description, but the information on them is comparatively staggering. Astraea and the Vinland family are from the Western Highlands, which is theorized to be the operational base for the Church of Boletaria. This church has ranks for its members, and we know of 2 characters who serve as spiritual leaders, Saint Urbane and Father Vinland. Below them are holy knights, and in this rank we can find Celine Vinland, Vito or Bito, the Moonlight Knight, who has 2 names in this game because Japanese is wonky with its B's and V's, and there was a translation issue. We'll call him Vito. There's also Rizaya, or Lizaya. Japanese is also funny with R's and L's. We'll call her Rizaya of Istorel, and formerly Garl Vinland. Assumably in the same rank was Maiden Astraea before she and Garl left, and there are also Temple Knights, dressed in a white Myrden armor, Myrd being a long-lost land where the first temples were built, which might actually be the Valley of Defilement itself. There were priests who spread the holy word and can take up arms as infantry, and finally there were basic acolytes, mostly untrained but devoted human beings who assisted in religious ceremonies and act as personal servants to higher level clerics. These holy warriors ventured to the Valley of Defilement, and most never came back. Rizaya is very likely dead, as we can find her revelation from God. The spear Istorel, which protected Rizaya from poison and the plague, near 3 giant depraved ones, and it's likely that her corpse fell down into the lair of the Leechmonger, a giant mass of blood-sucking leeches which was seemingly assembled by the power of a demon's soul. Vito, the Moonlight Knight's revelation from God, was the large sword of Moonlight, a powerful sword composed of pure light, able to cut through any shield and requiring immense faith from its wielder. Vito, the Toxic Stagger Knight, might therefore be a more apt name. The large sword of Moonlight can be found covered in slugs, who seem to be attracted to its power, like the slugs in the Shrine of Storms, who created the sticky white stuff. Near this sword, we can find a corpse carrying a legendary hero's soul, which we can assume to be Vito himself, or herself, as nearby there's a giant slug who drops the dull gold armor, which is exclusively wearable by women. Also found in the Valley of Defilement prior to fighting the Dirty Colossus is Celine Vinland, Garl's sister, who is searching for her brother to deliver to him the final words of their recently deceased father, as well as his old ring, the Ring of Devout Prayer. Side note, it's because this ring signifies high ranking with the church that it can be surmised that Father Vinland was of comparable rank to Saint Urbane. Before facing Garl Vinland and Maiden Astraea, the Slayer of Demons must destroy the Dirty Colossus, which is seemingly an amalgamation of all the filth of the valley. Garl Vinland blocks the narrow path which leads to Maiden Astraea. His armor is made of dark silver, which is an ancient metal set to purify dark malice, and he wields the brand, whose distortion is the mark of a giant slayer. Unlike the magic sword Makoto, the giants referred to here are likely the giants of the lost Artstone. The brand is not referred to as a revelation from God, but it does share the Isturel's protective powers. After killing Garl, the Slayer of Demons walks across a swamp of blood filled with aborted children who try to stop them on their way to Maiden Estrella. Maiden Estrella is hated by the old hag of the valley for stealing from her the attention of men, but that woman is wrongly characterizing Estrella. Estrella abandoned the church and embraced the power of a demon's soul to gain the power to purify the souls of the inhabitants of the valley. The inhabitants are mad and attack anyone and anything to gain souls to offer to Estrella. She does not put up a fight after losing Garl, and offers up her soul to the Slayer of Demons willingly. After dying at the hands of the Vanguard Demon, or Dragon God if you're good at the game, the Slayer of Demons found themselves in the Nexus, a hidden temple which connects the northern land of Boletaria. Here, the Slayer of Demons met the Monumental and the Maiden in Black, and here they have their meetings with the inhabitants of Boletaria and learn from them lore, miracles, and magics. The Slayer of Demons is bound to the Nexus by the Monumental, and will not truly die until their purpose is fulfilled. The Monumentals were the half-living sentinels of the fabric of reality who mended the world after the first scourge. One remains alive and is, with the exception of King Allant and the Maiden in Black, the most important character to understand, to grasp demon souls. The Monumentals were the heroes who survived the first scourge, and as I noted, they preserve the now fragile fabric of reality. Time passed, and the memory of the first scourge became hazy. As well, the Monumentals began to die. King Allant came to the Nexus and learned of the Soul Arts. He reawoke the Old One and unleashed the second scourge. At least, that's the official story. The Monumental notes that the Slayer of Demons must reverse their sin, and the crestfallen warrior says that the Monumentals awoke the Old One on a whim. Much can be inferred from the first part, and that second part is not a statement of objective fact. There's no reason to think the crestfallen warrior isn't just theory crafting or assuming. Some have theorized that the sin of the Monumentals connects to Allant and the Soul Arts. It's possible that they taught it to him, accidentally setting in motion Allant's descent into evil, but if you want to assume the worst, some have theorized that the Monumentals orchestrated these events to have a new generation of heroes rise up to replace themselves as they were dying off. The Maiden in Black is an ancient demon who was assumably birthed in the first scourge. She has immense powers to manipulate souls as seen in the skill of Soul Drain. It's an ability which the Slayer of Demons can learn from her soul, and it's the power to drain the souls of another. I don't think the Monumentals taught Allant to use the Soul Arts. I think the Maiden in Black did. Allant's demon doppelganger can use Soul Drain to de-level the Slayer of Demons in their fight, and the reason I think she taught the Soul Arts to Allant is because she wanted to die. The Maiden's soul-manipulating power allows her to transfigure the power of hostless souls into power for the Slayer of Demons, as well as what is her most incredible feat, lulling the Old One back to sleep should the player choose that ending. Like the Slayer of Demons, the Maiden is shackled to the Nexus by a nexial binding, which you can see is attached to her ankle, and thus she cannot die even though she wants to. I don't think the Maiden only taught Allant the Soul Arts. I think she taught him how to communicate with the Old One, and had him reawaken it. She would have done that assumably to save herself from the misery of living forever, as the only way she can die is by lulling the Old One back to sleep, and going to sleep with it.
Don't you understand? No one wishes to go on.
As she binds the power of demons' souls to the Slayer of Demons, she slowly transforms them into a demon, and when all archdemons are defeated and the Old One starts howling, she clearly recognizes the howl instinctively as she refers to it as a voice of yore. The tone of her communication with the Old One is like that of a mother to her child or an owner to a pet, so these two are very likely linked on some level, whether it be the circumstances of their birth or simply that they know each other. She also introduces the Slayer of Demons as a replacement for Allant, which makes me think that the Maiden in Black might originally have been created as a servant of the Old One, which was imprisoned in the Nexus maybe after she put it to sleep the first time. If you're not convinced that she wants to die enough to have put Allant on the dark path, let me show you my evidence. 1. If you try to kill the Maiden in Black, she will actually apologize for not being killable. 2. In the end of the game, she is overjoyed at finally completing her mission. And 3. Near the end of the game, when the Old One has started howling, Sage Frake says,
Why? You have defeated all the demons, have you not? This ghastly howl. The Monumental has spoken of it before. There is a question I have long had in my mind. It is whether we are right to banish the Old One. And I now have the answer. And it is a resounding no. Listen closely. The Old One must not be cut off from us. If the Candle Maiden tries to entrap it, kill her. Then absorb the souls of the Old One for yourself. The Old One is an unfathomable deposit of energy. It contains all the souls collected by the demons. You will gain the power of a king, and I will gain knowledge from beyond. And that, my dear friend, is the righteous path. You must not allow trifling matters to dissuade you. The demon souls shall be ours. If truth be told, that woman has been tainted by demons herself. She would thank you in her death for relieving her agony.
This request of Frake's for the Slayer of Demons to spare the Old One and use it to harvest more souls is dark, and must be put into proper context before moving on. The presence of the Old One has heightened the state of reality. The emergence of the Old One has blurred the line between reality and myths, as it has manifested people's beliefs. The Shrine of Storms is an example of how the Old One has given power to the belief of ritualistic release of the spirit, and Maiden Estrella is a showcase of how the Old One has given power to the religious idea of purifying sin and malice. The Old One is not necessarily the catalyst of destruction. It might just be an amplifier of human desires. As I go over more in my Demon Souls analysis video, the evils of man tainted this world long before the arrival of the Old One. Sage Frake and Urbane hate each other, as Urbane considers magic to be a vile disfiguration of the soul arts, whereas his miracles are passed down by God. Sage Frake hates Urbane because he knows more than him. Frake was once a priest who abandoned the church, and assumably he did this after he discovered what it was that the church worshipped.
Do you have a connection to the disciples? Do not pay attention to them if they speak poorly of me and my magic. Prayer is for the foolish, quaint, and soon to be dead. And heaven forbid the day you find out what their so-called God really is.
The casting of miracles is done using talismans of God, and the casting of magic is done using catalysts. Both drain MP, and a rare item known as the Talisman of Beasts has the unique ability to cast both magic and miracles. Its item description reads, an old wooden amulet resembling the Old One. It can utilize both miracles and spells. The symbol of God was nothing more than the image of the Old One. The Church and the magicians both draw their power from the Old One, not from God, and both magic and miracles drain the same resource, MP, because they are the same thing, soul arts. Or doesn't the false King Allant cast both the spell Soul Drain and the miracle Wrath of God? All draws its power from the Old One, so maybe Freyk is right to not put it to sleep. Maybe its power can be used to mend a damaged world, or maybe Freyk should get out more. Deep below the Nexus, the Old One howls and offers unlimited powers to those that will submit to it. For generations, the Nexus has contained the world, and the Maiden tended it. After destroying all the demons, including the false King Allant, the Slayer of Demons will face the Old One in the end and meet with the true King Allant. He will try to argue for his side as he desperately tries to subdue the Slayer of Demons. Allant has been transformed into a blob-like monster with no hope of victory, and after slaying him, the Slayer of Demons makes their final choice. Walk away, and let the Maiden in Black save the world, returning it to the natural state which produced the horrors of the Valley of Defilement. Alternatively, the Slayer of Demons can kill the Candle Maiden and take the power of the beasts for themselves. Whatever choice they make, the world shall be plunged into a deep despair, and all hope for salvation and a bright tomorrow punished.
Surely you have seen for yourself the pain and suffering that fills this world. But fight poison with poison. God is merciful, and so created the Old One. The Old One will feed upon our souls and put an end to our tragic realm of existence. Don't you understand? No one wishes to go on.
And that's the Demon Souls lore breakdown. Thanks for watching. Longtime followers of this channel will know that this is my first venture into a strict story breakdown video, and I hope I did the game justice. I'm certain that there are some details I've missed or gotten wrong, and if you picked up any of those, I hope you'll contribute that information or theory in the comment section. I'll pin to this video a comment where I compile theories and corrections, and if you're watching this video sometime after release, you might find some enjoyment in reading it and seeing what the community has added to this video. The footage I've used was supplied by BlueLizardJello and Usojin. Both are very cool people and have their channels linked in the description box below. Also linked below is my Patreon account, where I release videos early, so if you think it's worth paying $1 to watch these videos a few days ahead of the normies, check that out. In all seriousness, I hope that the story of Demon Souls is a bit more clear to you than it was before you watched this video, and if you enjoyed, I hope you'll watch my look back at Demon Souls analysis video, where I delve deeper into the game, its inspirations, its narrative implications, and all those wonderful mechanics that make it the special gem it is. I'm AesirAesthetics. Take care.